Well, good evening, everybody. This is your host, Mason Sims, and thank you for tuning in to another episode tonight. Joining us this evening is Mr. Phillip Bowers. He is the representative for the Central Clemson, Norris, and 6 Mile area, and he's going to share with us some things that were accomplished during his first session and some things that they're going to be working on in the future. So again, thank you for tuning in to another episode tonight, and let's get started. Well, good evening, everybody. With me today, I have State Representative Mr. Phillip Bowers. And Phillip, thank you for joining us this evening.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So, those are most of the people that probably follow Pickens politics know who you are. Maybe those that may just like follow, say, like the governor and presidential elections. Just feel free to tell us about yourself.
Yeah, well, I've been around Pickens politics a long time. I was county chairman for the Republican Party for about 10 years, about 10 years. I was on the local school board for 8 years, um, State Board of Education, Education Oversight Committee, and lifelong resident of 6 Mile. Been here all my life, so I feel very blessed to be able to represent my community I grew up in the State House.
Absolutely. And you graduated from Southern Wesley and then Clemson, right?
That's right.
Yeah. So you
Got my bachelor's degree from Southern Westland and my master's from
nice. So yeah, you've been around here pretty much your entire life.
my entire life. Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely what people like to find is homegrown candidates.
Well,
Born and raised.
I hope so.
Yeah, so
I've won some elections and lost some elections, but winning is always better.
oh yeah, I mean Governor Master, I think he lost a lot of elections. You
Yep.
know, now he Steve Snow's finishing strong as the governor.
Longest serving governor in the state. Yeah.
Yeah. So one thing I was going to ask you is, so I've been receiving text messages about the historic tax cuts for the state tax, and just feel free to elaborate on that and what all that entails.
Well, that's been kind of a bumpy road. Conservatives have talked about a flat tax for decades, since before you were born, probably. um, so that's the way it started out is getting us to a flat tax, which I support. Now, the problem with where we are, our current tax system is it's kind of a mess, for lack of a better word. There are all sorts of every taxpayer is a little bit different, so our tax code applies differently. So to get from our current system, which is kind of all messed up, to a flat tax, some people are going to end up paying more, some less. So that created quite a controversy when it first came out. As it turned out, about 60% of the people were going to get pay more. Now, I say pay more, that's a few dollars a month. It's not a huge tax increase, but overall, it would lower the tax burden for the state by about four. Originally, it was around $300 million, I think. Um, so we worked on it in committee and various things and got some advice and so forth, and finally ended up not going strictly with a flat tax, but lowering the rate. The top rate will be 5.6, which is a pretty good drop. Right now, it's 6.1, went to 5.6, and then if you're 30,000 or less, it'll be 1.9. But it sets us on a path. There are triggers in the law that are. It just passed the House, by the way. If it gets through the Senate and to the governor, it will be law. There are triggers that as the economy grows, we will a lowering of the income tax will coincide with that. So, same amount of revenue, tax goes down, and eventually, probably 8 or 10 years, we'll get to a zero income tax, which is what we all want.
Yeah, I know several states do have that, so I'm sure
Yeah.
people would be excited to have that zero income
Right.
tax.
When I was running, I used it as a campaign. We had the highest income tax in the Southeast. Florida doesn't have any. Tennessee doesn't have any. North Carolina is around 5, I think. Georgia's around 4 something. So this helped us. This what we did this time helps us a little bit. But I mean, still, a few people, about 20% of the people, will pay a little bit more. I'll probably have to pay more, but it's only a few dollars a month, and I consider it it's not a vote for me or my generation. It's for the next generation, my kids and grandkids. It gets us on a path to where they won't have to pay income tax. So I don't mind the sacrifice. I think most people, a lot of that 20%, um, are residents that are paying that for whatever reason. So they have business interests here, whatever. But I think zero income tax is where we need to go. Hopefully, before too many years, we will begin to work on property tax. Property taxes have got to be addressed. We've worked a little bit on the boat tax this year. Uh, the last proposal I saw was that passed the House was over 3 years. We'll cut it from the current 10.5. I think it's 10.5 to 6, which um, helps some, but it's still, most people just don't like property tax. You don't like renting your car from the county every year or your home or whatever. So um, I hope property tax is the next thing we tackle. How we do it will be hard. As I said, or I may not said, but half the government is funded by income tax. A lot of people say, "Well, why don't you just do away with income tax?" Well, that sounds, yeah, but that'd be great if we could. The problem is, how do you fund the government? I mean, people want, they want the criminals locked up, they want police protection, they want um, education, and all the other things that taxes pay for. So um, you can't just cut it out. So I think it's a reasonable approach we took to it this time, and still some work to do. It's got to go to the Senate. I don't know what the Senate will do with it. They were on board with us originally, and I hope that continues.
Well, that's good. Yeah, and it would be good to where you get to take tax to zero and eventually, because it was nice when I lived in Tennessee for a short period of
Yeah,
time,
right.
have more money in the paycheck.
Yeah, it is. It is nice, and the tax tables are going to adjust immediately once the governor signs it, whatever that is. So you'll immediately see some reduction in your income tax because your tax brackets will all change. So I think, again, nobody wants to pay more taxes, but it'll just be for a short time, and it gets us on a path to eliminate income tax, and our kids and grandkids won't have to worry about income tax. We got to start somewhere. We've been talking about it, as I said, for decades. Let's get started. I'll take the political beating from those that think it's a tax increase, but overall, it's less revenue by about $400 million. The House passed. I don't know what, like I said, I don't know what the Senate's going to do, but the version the House passed will be about $400 million reduction in revenue.
So, at least from Pickens County, what was the overall reaction been for that? Has it been mostly positive, mostly negative?
Haven't heard much. Very little. I've probably had 4 or 5 emails. Not much interest. My my constituents, um, they want the roads fixed. They want right to life. They want to protect the right to life. Education reform, and tax reform. And thankfully, I mean, I'm blessed. It's like God just poured it out on me because I ran on all those things. And now we're getting dozens of road repaved around the district, several bridges. Chastain Road is done. The 6 mile Clemson Highway, it will be done soon. We did Cherry Road in Clemson, doing the 183 bridges, doing the Winding Creek Bridge. I mean, we're doing a lot of work. So I'm thankful for that. We gave this DOT $200 million additional for road repairs, gave them $50 million for Helena cleanup, all the cleanup associated with that. And we replenished, I think it was $30 million. We replenished the reserve fund that was used for, what was the other hurricane? Was it Elaine?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever the other one we had last year. So there was they used the reserve funds for that, or some account for emergency, the EMD, I think Emergency Management Division. I don't have all these acronyms down yet, but
Helene. Was that the one you're talking about?
no, Helene was the last one. I think it was the one before that. I can't remember, but anyway, we put a lot of money in for roads and infrastructure, so that's a win for me. I mean, I did what I want to do what I said, so I tried to do that. I have stayed in touch with the DOT. I talked to the DOT today about an issue, and so I got education, school choice. That was shot down by the court because of the funding protocol or whatever. So we think we fixed that, sent it back. The governor signed it, so we'll have school choice, and had a lot of interest in that. Speaking of, did I have any feedback from the county? I have a lot of interest in that. Some don't like it, But by and large, most of the contact I got was, yes, please do that. The other thing was the pro life. We were able to um, preserve the heartbeat bill. The heartbeat bill was important to me. I want to leave that in place. We also were able to defeat the caucus was able to defeat a Democrat effort to defund crisis pregnancy centers, and they help prevent a lot of abortions because it gives women a place to go and get seek help if they have an unplanned pregnancy. So we were able to keep that funding in the budget. Democrats want to cut that out, and then of course the tax cut that we've already talked about. So I'm I'm happy. I think we had a great year.
Absolutely. Yeah. Have you been contacted by, say, like Clemson or Southwestern universities? I know that it's a lot of federal funding, at least from what I heard from Clemson, they're not receiving it. So they've been concerned as far as like their budget goes.
um, no, I haven't heard that. I met with President Clements a couple times. We had lunch and a couple times and talked, and he feels pretty good about it. We
That's
talked
good.
about the DEI. That was another thing we did. We passed the DEI bill to limit these preferences in hiring and so forth, and state agencies. So talked to him about that. I don't think he didn't seem to have a lot of anxiety about the federal cuts. Um, it will be it's kind of ironic. I didn't realize this, but during the Biden administration, if you applied for a grant, excuse me, like Clemson applied for a grant, the Biden administration forced them to put a DEI component in their application. You know, show us that you're a DEI provider or whatever they kind of what they call it. But
Right.
so there's some situations like that, and we're able to work through that. Um, but it's kind of like the tax thing. There's this transition period we've got to work through, and I'm thankful that President Trump is doing this and trying to get our financial house in order and moral house in order. So
Yeah, and people have mixed reviews about or mixed feelings about the tariffs, but ultimately, I think it's going to help us in the long run. It may
yeah,
not seem like it now.
yeah, it's I haven't felt any repercussions from it, but there probably will be. Uh, but it's over my head, so I just let the president do what he does, and I hope it works out to where it doesn't hurt us. But I read somewhere today that the economy, inflation, and all those indicators. Of course, the stock market is completely recovered from when all that hoopla dusted up over the tariffs. So I think we're going to be fine. It's going to be bumpy. I mean, we've been going down the wrong road for a long time, and Trump's trying to turn us around and get things straightened out. So it's going to be bumpy for a while, but I think we'll be
Oh yeah,
fine.
yeah. And the short-term pain is fine as long as like in the long run it helps us.
Right, and that's the way. That's why I supported the tax reform again that some people don't like, but um, you got to start somewhere, and sometimes you have to endure just a little pain to make things better. Like you running, I see you running all the time, so
Oh yeah,
sometimes you have to endure some pain to win. So
oh yeah, yeah. They are like pain is temporary, but glory is forever.
there you go. That's right. That's a good saying. Yeah.
Yeah. So the other thing I mentioned too is some people say that as far as the way the South Carolina House votes, the way they vote conservative, would you say for the most part that they have voted conservatively? Because I noticed that at least I've heard like just around here they say that and don't really vote that way.
Yeah, and I've said that too. And there's some moderates and moderate Republicans. Of course, we have a super majority, as you know. Um, but well, just look at what we did. I mean, I guess just look at the evidence. And I've already talked about some of it, but some of the things we did, the
Because the taxes, I mean, I would seem like that would be a conservative.
yeah, I think it's a conservative. And like I said, conservative. We talked about this way back forever, so it's conservative. Although the issue is, some people are going to have to pay more because we're trying to get it levelized. Um, and again, it's not a lot more, a few dollars a month, probably in most cases. Um, but it's back to conservative. I've been impressed with the leadership for the most part. The speaker set an agenda, and we've worked through it pretty well. Um, education, the Educator Assistance Act was a big deal. The teachers and their pay, they get a pay increase. They get given more time for class preparation, their contracts. In the past, they had to sign a contract before that. Well, you're a teacher. Um, they had to sign a contract before they knew where they were going. Probably not so much for you because you're at a charter school, but the general population of teachers, they had to sign their contracts and everything, and they didn't know where they were going to be teaching nor how much they were going to be making. And now we fixed all that, and that was a direct request from the Teachers Association. So that's conservative, taking care of our teachers. Tax cuts we talked about. Did I tell you that 44% of the people pay no income tax at all? Did I say that? I don't remember if I said that.
I don't think you have.
Yeah, I was surprised to hear that. So another thing that this change does, it kind of helps to make it fair. Because even if you make $25,000-$30,000 a year, you still use the roads, you still use the educational system, you still law enforcement and so forth. So I think it's reasonable to expect everybody to pay a little bit.
Right.
Back to the concern, whether we're conservative or not, a couple other things. The court reform, there's a restaurant here in town. Um, I asked the proprietor, I said, does the liquor liability thing really affect your insurance rates? And she said, oh my, they more than doubled because, and she said, and on top of that, alcohol is only 17% of my business. She said, it's mostly food, but it doesn't matter. So we worked with like, like scenarios like that from all across the state. And we put in a kind of a graduated approach to it so that if I think it's 20% of your food, uh, 20% of your income is derived from alcohol, then it's graduated to where you can lower your insurance rates if you close at a certain time. It helps. So it's helped small business. Most of those places are small businesses. I'm not a big alcohol fan. It'd be fine with me if they never sold anymore.
Right.
But a lot of people like alcohol with a meal, whatever. So free country. As small businesses, we need to try to help them. So I was glad we got that passed. Um,
Yeah,
okay.
I was gonna say the Pine Station. You probably saw my podcast with Senator Rice. They started serving food because of the
Is that right? Okay, yeah,
because the alcohol
that's right.
license. So that helped with the cost.
It helps a little bit, yeah. So we're not done with that. I think there'll be more work on the torque. I'm not really an expert on that torque stuff, but I understand the Senate wants to do a lot more of this joint and several liability. I didn't know what that was before, 3 months ago, but basically, no matter what percentage, if you only had 5% of the fault in an accident or whatever, the deep pockets, you've probably heard of deep pockets in lawsuits and all. They go after whoever got the most money. Um, so this is supposed to help with that, so that your responsibility for the making the victim, if you will, whole doesn't fall on the individual or business who only had say 5% of the fault. So, and again, I don't understand all I don't understand all that yet, but I think the Senate's going to do some more work on it. But we made it a little better. I think
That's
we made it
good.
a little better. So,
Yeah, and I think when I spoke with Senator Rice, he had mentioned that for the most part, the Senate's pretty united as far as like. So they're not as divided as say other groups in the area. Would you say the House is like that too for the most part?
um, for the most part, yeah, the caucus. I'm a member of the majority caucus. Um, I've I had a lot was kind of pulled in both directions. We have the Freedom Caucus and we have the Republican Caucus, and of course you have the Democrat Caucus. But obviously, I'm not joining those guys. But I wanted to represent my district the best I could, and after I kind of got down there and began to learn the ropes a little bit, it just it became obvious that the best way for me to represent my district was to be a member of the majority caucus.
And
Um,
is that something like do you have to be a part of those caucuses, or is that something that's voluntary?
no, it's voluntary. You don't have to. I had to pay. I think I don't remember how much I have to pay to be a member of the caucus, but it's not a tremendous amount. I think it was $500 or something.
Okay.
So, but you get to kind of have a seat at the table. And for the most part, I agree with what the Republican caucus does. I agree with a lot of what the Freedom Caucus does. Great people. I made some great friends. A big portion, probably there were 20 of us in my freshman class, and probably eight, maybe not quite half, but a pretty big percentage were Freedom Caucus, and they're great guys. I love them. And gal. Um, and I probably agree with them like 90% of the time on their, on their policy standpoint. It's just that I kind of disagree on the strategy. It's just not a strategy
Right.
I like that well. So,
Yeah, and I would say for the most part, at least like around here, we agree. I would say it's safe to say we agree about 90% of the issues.
yeah, I think so. Again, great people. I enjoy working with them. Um, have a couple who sit behind me, and some around. It's funny. We pick our seats. Uh, the first thing we do on the first day of session is they put each delegation in. Do you know how to do that? I never heard how they do that.
I don't know.
They put a number with each delegation on a piece of paper, and they put it in a fishbowl, and then each delegation draws out, and whatever your number you get to pick your seats in the chamber. And I thought, what a weird way to do that. But because they're numbered, I assumed that they're all numbered, that I would get seat three. I mean, I'm in three, so I should get seat three, but it doesn't work that way. So we pulled out our number. David, we were like the third number um, to be called. So David went straight down front and sat on the front because he likes to be on the front, because being majority leader, he has to go out and back to the speakers podium a good little bit. So I just followed him. I got to sit with David. That excuse me, that's been great because David is has so much knowledge. He's been there 20 years. So he's been really helpful. But I think that is it Dave? No, I think we'll continue to try and work with the Freedom Caucus guys, and I don't like I said, I have no animosity toward them. And I just disagree with their strategies sometimes.
Right. Yeah.
Back to you asked me about the conservative. A couple other things I'd like to point out. We passed stiffer penalties for failure to stop for police, which is good. And you watch the news. A lot of times you get these accidents for people just running and running from the police. So hopefully that will help with that. The fentanyl homicide by fentanyl, we passed that conservative measure. The online exploitation of minors, that was a little bit controversial.
Is there anything else you'd like to say while you're on the air, Representative Bowers?
No, I just appreciate you having me. It's a great experience. I've loved doing it. I miss being at home. I'm a homeboy, so it's hard being away from home. A couple nights a week, but it's only for about 3 months, and but I appreciate the opportunity to do it, and look forward. Hopefully, get to do it a long time. But it's up to the voters. So,
Absolutely. And was there something else you'd like to share too?
um, well, I did forget to mention the public health, the consolidate or actually the splitting of DHEC into two agencies. We did get that done, which is helpful. We've had a lot of problems with that, so I think that would be helpful. And I think that's probably about all. I think I talked about the online exploitation of children, so that was a good bill we got through to help protect our children from online predators and so forth. So lots of conservative stuff we got through. We didn't get everything done, obviously, and but we'll continue to do that. And I think we have a pretty conservative house. Not as conservative as some folks would want, but pretty good.
Yeah. Well, looks like it's moving in the right direction.
I think so.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate having you on this evening.
Thank you. Good seeing you.
Good to see you as well. And that concludes our show for this evening. If you have not already, please feel free to click like, share, and subscribe on our YouTube channel for future updates. And also follow our Facebook page as well. Hope that everyone has had a great week so far. and next week is to be determined. Since the beginning of the month was Firefighter Awareness Month, I have a potential candidate who is a retired lieutenant from the Seattle Fire Department, and I have a few other politicians in the area too that might come on as well. So again, thank you for all for tuning in this evening. Good night, all, and God bless America. Thank you.